Hi everybody, I'm Kate Riley and this is my micro teaching lesson. And for this mini lesson, I chose option 2 and I'm focusing on high leverage practice 12 and 1. And this lesson is a kind of first day activity for a bigger unit. And we're exploring Mary Longman's work and encouraging students to think about family connections, histories, stories, cultures and beliefs, connecting to their own artwork. And students, they're always a really rich source for their artwork, and learning to connect their own backgrounds and cultures to what they want to create is a really important part of our middle school art class. And this lesson is a launching point for a mixed media family tree project that explores how artists use their own personal and cultural identities to inspire their work. So here we go. Perfect. So our objective for this lesson is we are starting to engage in a brief visual discussion. We're accessing our prior knowledge to start to explore Mary Longman's work through visual analysis, which we've practiced throughout our semester together in art. And we're going to learn about how Mary Longman, an Indigenous artist, is working through her own cultural identity through a piece called Strata and Roots. And we are gonna have a little time to discuss her imagery and then connect it back to ourselves, our own families, our cultures, and our ancestry to help shape our understanding of our identity and inspire our own artwork. And this is an example of one of Mary Longman's 2D pieces. Perfect. So just so everybody has a little background information about our key artists for this unit before we practice visual analysis, so Mary Longman, she's an Indigenous Canadian contemporary artist, and she explores all medias. She does sculpture, painting, mixed media, and that's going to be the launching point for our project too. We're going to be doing a mixed media project. And some themes in her artwork are identity, cultural resilience, she brings an awareness about social and environmental issues that are impacting her Indigenous community. And we're looking at Strata and Roots, but before we get into her artist intent, I want you guys to practice a little bit of just visual analysis. Perfect. So here's some pictures of her sculpture, and everybody got our handouts. You can take a little bit of a closer look when you are practicing visual analysis with your partner. But here are some things I want us to just kind of start to think about as you're kind of going through your visual analysis checklist that's on your worksheet. What do you see? How do you think she built the sculpture? What do you notice first? And then what images and symbols and colors are standing out to you? So on your little closer up pictures, obviously sculptures are 3D works. We do not have it here. But when you look a little closer, you'll be able to see some of those things that you might not be able to see from the far away picture. But everybody pick a partner, and I want you to start practicing visual analysis for this piece. And you have 2 minutes to work with a partner to just breaking down what we are seeing visually. And for the purpose of this video, we are not going to wait that whole amount of time. But after that, I would start to ask students, what are they seeing? What are they noticing? And they would generally go through that visual analysis sheet that is on their handout. So after students have shared, I will go on to talking about our artist's intent. So in this family tree sculpture, Mary Longman's looking at the interconnection of Indigenous people with their land and their community. It also talks about her family history and her communal ties. And it's also thinking about pathways of movement and migration that's shaped her Indigenous experience over time. So those are some ways that our key artist is looking at her family's culture, her family's history, and representing that in a work of art. So that is something that we're going to be thinking about when we are creating our own mixed media pieces for this project. But before we start thinking about creating, we're going to do a little bit of a think, pair, share discussion. And we're going to break into our pairs again. And we're going to have about 5 minutes to just talk together and start to share a little bit about our own understanding of family. How might we define that? What symbols or stories or connections to our family and history or identity might we think about? And then we're also going to look at symbols and images that could represent our family and background. And that's going to help us with our first creation part of our project. And then we're also going to maybe talk about with our partner the tradition, beliefs, and stories passed on by your family. So we're going to have about 5 minutes to talk to our partner, and then any groups who want to share as a class will be able to share after. All right, guys, think, pair, share. And I'm going to leave this on the board for everybody, and you have a few minutes to work with your partner and start talking about some of these ideas. Again, for the purpose of this video, we're going to move past that, but once students have had that time to process and start to think about symbolism, this is a topic that we've been talking about throughout this semester, thinking about ways to symbolize bigger ideas, and my middle school classes have been doing great with that so far. So after students have this little discussion, they're going to share it out. Usually we have a few groups that are really eager to share their ideas, and then I have to pull for a few more. But that's our little discussion that will launch our art making activity, and yeah, students will start after that, moving on to their sketchbook and process work. Thank you guys. That is my little mini lesson. Thank you.